Hello everybody, I am going to be showing you today how you can make low gravity areas inside of your map. So this is going to be combining a couple concepts that we've already worked on in a couple other of the videos, including area monitors and traits. So we're going to kind of smash two of those things together and make a cool new piece of gameplay for our players. So let's say for instance maybe you have an area inside of your map where you want gravity to change. Say for instance when players walk out into space through an airlock, or maybe you've got a special area like a energy beam or something like that that players could enter. Well, we can do that really easily here. So I've just got this little template here that I've created, and I'm going to first start by creating a new script brain. So I can do that just by holding Q and then going into node graph, and I hit escape, and boom, right there I've got it. But I can also just do this through the object browser. Under scripting, we can go to script brain, and that's how we can create that. So I first select my script brain, and we need to create boundaries for this, right? So we need to be able to listen to the events on an area monitor that we create. So I'm going to go to boundary and then type of cylinder, and I'm going to start off just by bumping up a couple of these values so I can start to see. Okay, so we can see the area monitor here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this really, really tall. So I'm going to have to back out of this in just a moment here, but let's see, escape, and okay, so one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this object here, and then I'm going to hit end and snap that to the ground, and then let's go up top and kind of find what's the center of this here. Oh, whoops. So if you ever get this to where you can't move something side to side, you need to move the object up just a touch. So there we go. And now we can kind of go over here and find what kind of looks like the center. It doesn't need to be perfect, not for this example, but you might want to go ahead and tweak that and make sure that it's absolutely perfect for your maps, so that way you don't get any goofy behavior. But now that I've kind of backed out over to here, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back into this here boundary, and I'm going to just bump the radius up like crazy. So I'm going to do 40. Okay, it needs to be bigger than that. Let's try 65. Close, but not close enough. Perfect. Okay, so now what we need to do is just adjust the height of this. Okay, so I'm going to just bump the top up to 82. Let's try 82. Okay, well, that's kind of close. So let's go with 90. No? 95? Okay, that's going to do it for me. So now we have this boundary set up, right? And if we drop into the game, we notice that, oh, whoops, sorry about that. I'm trying to actually just jump in using F5, not F6. So we're just going to use whoop, and I should probably also go above the ground if I'm going to do that. So let's hit F5 again. My apologies. So you cannot see this boundary that we've set. So if we want to fix that, let's say that we are currently working on this and we need to know when are we inside of this area monitor. I'm going to go to show, and I'm going to turn that on, and then I'm going to hit escape, go up, and hit F5 to continue, and there we go. Now we can see it while we're playing, and then that way, if, we need to tweak any of those gaps over there or anything like that, and we can kind of further inspect it as the player. So I'm going to go ahead and start scripting this, and the first thing that I'm going to do when I jump into here is I'm going to grab a reference to the script brain, right? So what I did there is I just right-clicked and I did add object reference. And since the last thing that we had selected in the world was our script brain, that's where we're getting this object reference from. But we could also do this by just going to variables basic, object reference, and then if we go into the node properties and go to object, we can click on that script brain, and then there we have it again. So the next thing I'm going to do real quick here is I am going to go to events and then on object entered area, and I'm also going to get the area monitor in variables basic. There is the area monitor node. What we need to do here is tie this together, and I'm going to move a little bit quick here because I did already cover area monitors. Please check out the other videos on that where I incorporated that if you're interested in kind of what's going on here. But essentially what I'm doing is just listening to this area monitor that we've set up, and whenever an object enters that boundary, that cylinder that we created, then this event right here is going to fire. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to say, okay, is the object that entered that area, is that a player? So we're going to do under players, we're going to get is player, okay? And we need to do this because we can't perform all of this logic on every object that enters these boundaries, right? We need to set gravity on players. So I'm also going to go over here and go to traits, and then I'm going to declare a new trait set, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to give this trait set a name. So the identifier I like to use for traits is traits, and then let's see, low gravity. Okay, so we have the low gravity trait, and we need to actually apply some traits in here. So what we need to do is go to add node, and then let's do the player gravity trait. And what we're going to do here is just tie that right in. And this is asking for a scalar value for the gravity. So let's do add node, and then we're going to go to variables basic, and we're going to do number, and we're going to tie this number in right here. Now, one quick note, if we go back over to the traits, if we inspect what the description of this trait player gravity is, it says affects how much gravity affects the player, which changes jump height and fall speed. A scalar of 1.0 is default. Higher means the player jumps lower and falls faster, so it's like stronger gravity, right? So if it's based off of a 1 by default, if we want half of the gravity, then we would just do 0.5 here. But I kind of want to make something even more interesting than that. Let's do 0.33, right? And so we're going to have 1/3 gravity in this area, okay? Now, we've declared this trait set here, but we also need to, let's see here. No, that should be good. So we do have this trait set already declared, and we should be able to refer to that later. So what I'm going to do is grab this here trait set. I'm going to put this in the upper left-hand corner. This is where I like to put my variables at. They always have one place. I can always go find them. So when a player enters this, I need to go to logic, and then I need to branch, and oh goodness, I've never seen that happen before. Let's delete a couple of those. I don't know how that happened, but what we're going to do is we're going to do is a player for the condition here on this branch. We're going to activate this branch when an object enters, and we're checking to see if that object is a player, and if so, what I would like to do is I would like to add those traits to the player. So I'm going to do apply trait set under traits. And so if true, let's go here. And what traits do we want to actually apply? Well, we have to go to node properties here, and the identifier here is going to be our traits low gravity. Okay. And we want this to immediately apply. Now the player here, another important piece of information that we need to plug into this node, is going to be this object that entered the area. Now we know that this is a player, obviously, because we already checked, so we're safe to do that here. Now, one thing that's going to happen if we just run this right now is the player is going to enter that area, they're going to get the low gravity trait, and then when they exit the area, they're still going to have low gravity. So we need to fix that here really quick. So let's go back into events, and then let's get the on object exited area event. Now I'm going to do a couple things here to make this easier for myself. I'm going to duplicate these two nodes by highlighting them and then doing Control D on my keyboard. And okay, we're going to wire this up to this event. Cool. And then now what we're going to do is over here in traits, we're going to do remove trait set. Okay, so what we'd like to do is remove that gravity trait when the player exits that area. So I'm going to move this node down. I'm going to plug that player in that entered, or excuse me, exited. Remember, this is the exited event here. And I'm going to indicate which traits I want to remove by setting the identifier here to traits low gravity. Okay, cool. So we also need to set this remove immediately to true. We want it to remove right when the player exits that area. All right, well, so let's give this a try and see if this works. I believe it will. I think that everything looks all neat and tidy, and so I'm going to go ahead and just hit F5 here. So we enter this area, and oh, it doesn't look like it's necessarily working right here. Well, that's not good. So let's just back up a little bit here. Let's see if this is because we need to actually just add a spawn point in. So gameplay, player spawning, spawn point initial. Okay, cool. I'm going to snap that to the ground, and now I'm going to hit F6. All right. There we go, much better. So you see, if you run into that situation there where you're not having things affecting the player, you actually have to be a player inside of the match. And in order for that to happen, it looks to be, see how when we exit, player no longer has that gravity, but as soon as we enter this area, we have low gravity. Very cool. I love this. So there's all different kinds of stuff that you could do with this, I'm sure. And I mean, look at this. This is so cool. So yeah, that's basically just the gist of it. So if I jump out and then into here, oh yeah, we could do some really cool stuff. But alrighty, well, that wraps it up. That is how you make these low gravity areas, and be sure that if you run into something like I did just there, make sure you're actually spawning into the game and you're running it with F6. So, but alrighty, well, I will see you all in the next one, and if there's any questions that you have, of course, let me know in the comments, and thank you so much for watching.